It's 6 o'clock. This meeting is called to order. Dick, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business, we will review and approve minutes of a number of different previous meetings, starting with the January 23, 2012 non-public work session.
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Moving on to the January 23, 2012 regular Select Board meeting minutes.
I move we approve them as written. Second.
It's been moved by Charlie and seconded by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the minutes of the January 23rd non-public meeting.
I'll move those minutes be approved as presented. Second.
It's been moved by Ray and forwarded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the February 2, 2012 budget hearing minutes.
I'll move to approve those minutes as written. Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have our February 9, 2012 non-public work session minutes.
I'll move we approve those as presented. Second.
It's been moved by Ray, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
One abstention. Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the February 9, 2012 petitioned warrant articles hearing minutes.
I'll also move we approve those as presented. Second.
That's been moved by Ray and seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Minutes are approved. And finally, the February 9, 2012 non-public meeting minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. One abstention. Those minutes are approved. Okay. Moving on to announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on February 27, 2012 and March 12, 2012. Work review sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 p.m. Town offices will be closed on February 20, 2012 for President's Day. Town elections will be on March 13, 2012, that's Tuesday, at the Plymouth Elementary School from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town meeting will be on March 17, 2012, that's a Saturday, at Plymouth Regional High School starting at 6 p.m. All of the meetings will be held in the town hall unless those, other than those mentioned. Weather observations for the month of January are available in the town hall. A citizen is still needed to represent the town of Plymouth at the Genesis Behavioral Health Board of Directors. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Selectmen's agenda should notify the town hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. And probably the most important announcement of the evening, as you may be aware, Plymouth Police Chief Steve Temporino will leave the department effective February 24, when he will be appointed Assistant Director of Homeland Security for the state of New Hampshire. The Select Board is pleased to announce the appointment of Captain Steve Lefebvre as Interim Police Chief effective February 9, 2012. Upon Chief Temporino's departure, Chief Lefebvre will be sworn in as Chief with a 6-month evaluation period. As far back as 2007, Select Boards have recognized Steve Lefebvre's potential to fill the position of Police Chief and have established goals and objectives for him to meet in order to become fully qualified for the position. This board is in full agreement with our predecessors and finds that Steve has met and exceeded the goals. Steve displays the qualifications that Plymouth most needs in its police chief, including strong leadership, management and communication skills, effectiveness under stress, excellent judgment, strength of character, and initiative. A member of our police force for 18 years, he has demonstrated his ability to work with our citizens, with Plymouth State University and other towns in the region, as well as state and federal law enforcement and emergency management officials. Most recently, Steve served as acting chief during the incident last December involving persons planning to come to the PSU campus carrying firearms, and he performed superbly in the planning, preparation, and response to that incident. Steve has effectively worked with the Select Board, the Town Administrator, Emergency Management Director, and other town departments, and he's often represented the Plymouth Police Department to schools, civic organizations, and other groups. We hope everyone will join us in congratulating Chief Lefebvre on his appointment.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And moving on, the next item on our agenda is actually an appointment. Jill Carroll to Plymouth Police Officer.
Well, Jill should be a familiar face to this board because she comes to us from the University Police Department. Jill holds a BA in criminal justice from the university. While attending classes at the university, she was a student officer for the University Police Department. Two impressive achievements while she was a student at PSU was, number one, she managed to maintain a 3.8 grade point average while she attended the school there, which I think is very impressive. And she was also awarded the Student Employee of the Year for 2009-2010. Shortly after she graduated, PSU obviously noticed her talents, offered her a full-time position as a police officer there, which she accepted. She went to the full-time academy, and while at the full-time academy, she also had a couple of very good achievements as well that are notable. First is she maintained all her test scores were in the 90 while she attended the academy, and she also got the Most Improved Recruit Award from Police Standards and Training. So I think that Jill will be a valuable asset to the town. I hope the board feels the same way, and with your permission, I would like to have Jill as our newest full-time officer.
Excellent. And we actually did...
I think we took care of that.
We voted on this after you briefed us last week, so I'd just like to say a welcome to Jill, and I think Karen is here, the town clerk is here for the official swearing in as Plymouth Police Officer Jill Carroll.
I, Jill Carroll,
I, Jill Carroll,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent on me as police officer, according to the best of my abilities, to the Constitution of the United States,
to the Constitution of the United States,
to the rules and regulations
to the rules and regulations
of the Constitution and the laws
of the Constitution and the laws
of the state of New Hampshire.
of the state of New Hampshire.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations.
We need to sign.
I'll take the bottom one.
Oh, you're first.
It's official. Thank you very much.
Official, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, under updates, we have the safety building update. The Select Board has stated on several occasions in recent months that we may not go forward with plans for public safety buildings at town meeting this year, and we have in fact decided not to do so for a number of reasons. In the past 2 years, the state of the economy has been cited as a reason not to vote to approve the plans that have been proposed, and while the economy shows signs of improvement, Plymouth's taxpayers are still suffering significant economic stress. The cost of the previous 2 years' plans and the proposed locations of the safety buildings have also been cited as reasons the proposals didn't pass. And this year, properties that appeared to be promising locations for the safety buildings did not turn out to be feasible in terms of price. A number of citizens have indicated that they believe Plymouth State University should play a greater role in the safety building projects, and we believe there is a possibility of this, but more time is needed to pursue it. And finally, significant work has been accomplished on both the fire and police stations, which has improved their habitability and functionality. So for all of these reasons, the warrant this year will not include an article addressing the safety buildings. Moving on to correspondence. We have a letter from Dominic Morocco regarding reappointment to the Plymouth Conservation Commission. Letter dated February 5th, 2012, to the Select Board. I am writing regarding the Plymouth Conservation Commission membership. 2 members are now up for renewal in 2012, Susan Swope and Stuart Carroll. Both have proven to be knowledgeable, valued members of the Commission, and in their capacity as members have dedicated themselves to serving the interests of the people of the town of Plymouth. The Commission unanimously supports their reappointments as Conservation Commission members. And I think we can vote now to approve those. If there's, is there any discussion or comment?
I'll make a motion to make those appointments.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Dick and seconded by Charlie that Susan Swope and Stuart Crowell both be reappointed as Conservation Commission members. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those appointments are approved. All right, next we have new purchase orders. Peter Furmanek, both are Granite State Minerals for salt, and both are parts of a blanket bid that we've previously brought to us. The first is Granite State Minerals, purchase order number 7564, in the amount of $6,246.07.
I move we approve that purchase order as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Ray and seconded by Charlie that that be approved. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That purchase order is approved. The second one is a similar purchase order, number 7566, total amount $10,196.38.
Again, I recommend approval as presented, recognizing it's part of the blanket bid effort for this year.
It's been moved by Ray and seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That purchase order is approved. Okay. Next, we have committee reports. Charlie?
The only meeting I attended was the school board, which was a week ago today. And it was fairly uneventful. I think they ratified their agreement with that meeting, which goes to the warrant. Other than that, nothing very eventful.
Right.
Three reports. First, from the Plymouth Regional Chamber of Commerce. Pleased to announce that they have set the date of April the 26th at 5 p.m. for their annual celebration. This year they'll be celebrating their 20th celebration. It will be at the Common Man Inn here in Plymouth. And the second item of note is that the board did decide to find funds within the budget to support the application of Scott Stevens to the Leadership New Hampshire program. It's about a $4,000 fee to go through that one-year-long program. The initial proposal came forth from Steve Barber with the university, and the board was unanimous in its support that if Scott was accepted to that program, that we would find money within the budget for that. It is another successful year that the Chamber has had from this financial standpoint and also from the services that is provided to the various businesses. And of note, of course, is the growth that's occurred over the last year or so in the number of memberships that are part of that regional chamber. Scott's done a good job of being a voice for that organization. The second item that I have to report on, and I'll turn to Dick to amplify this, is from the Planning Board. Two items of note that the Select Board should be aware of. The first is that the Planning Board continues to explore opportunities to try to find an answer, if not a solution, for the drainage problems on Fairgrounds Road that have occurred on the locations that are, if you will, downstream from the Mountain View Estates development. Single that one out because that's the one most people tend to recognize where it's at. We did receive a very lengthy report from Mike Vanali, the professional engineer with KV Partners, and his extensive investigation, including on-site visitations with various property owners on a number of sites that are downstream of the Mountain View Estates. And my summation of his report is, despite his best efforts, he could only come to two conclusions. The first was that everything that has been developed and is being developed out there has been done in accordance with all of the site plan design work and approvals and engineering analysis work that was presented. The second item is that there may be a question about whether or not a drainage pipe that was installed in Mountain View Estates, the 6-inch drainage pipe, is indeed of adequate size to continue to allow a flow of water into what's known as the big open field out there. The Planning Board believes that that should continue to be explored,
and we've asked the town planner to conduct further discussions with Mike Vignali to try to get a feedback from him if that is something that might be helpful. On a personal note, one of the things that I got out of looking at all of the information, and there was a wealth of stuff that was provided to the planning board, there's not a unanimous view that the water problems there are always of a recent nature. There were comments that were made on some of the site visits that there's been problems in the past that go beyond anything from the recent period. So it is something that does need to be attended to, and I think the town is to be commended for the effort that the planning board is putting forth, because the effort with Mike Vignali goes beyond any statutory requirement that the town has to look into problems on behalf of the citizens out there. The second issue I'll turn to Dick on to share with the board.
The planning board at the last meeting voted to send a proposed article to town meeting for a zoning amendment to basically to eliminate a definition in the zoning ordinance regarding student housing. The definition is somewhat repetitive of other provisions in the zoning ordinance and is also somewhat confusing, and has been confusing both to the town planner, current town or previous town planners, and to some applicants that have come before the board or spoken with the town planner on a one-to-one basis. So that will be being presented to the town for consideration.
Just as a side note, over the past month, the planning board has seen 2 minor subdivision applications come before it, and that's somewhat of a step up in activity in front of the planning board on activities within the town in regards to development. The last report that I had the opportunity on behalf of Mike to attend last month's Energy Commission meeting. One of the reasons I was there was to share information about some discussions that I had with the electric co-op in regards to the activities that we want to move forward on with the installation of LED streetlights in an effort to improve not only our conservation efforts but also the finances within the town. While I was there, one of the things that I was very pleased to hear about, and I've asked a couple of the representatives from the Energy Commission who can do a far better job than I can, to share with you in a synopsis form the outcome of one of the grants that the town received in the past 2 years that has been completed and has been very successfully completed. And with that, Madam Chairman, if I could ask the representatives from the Energy Commission to give us the summation of that outcome. I think you'd be very pleased to hear that.
Okay. And we still aren't done with committee reports, but...
Well, that's what I was thinking. That was the best place to do it, was under that committee report.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Madam Chair, members of the Select Board. I'm Paul Phillips. I'm the former chair of the Energy Commission, still a member of the Energy Commission, filling in for Steve Whitman, who is the current chair who teaches class on Monday nights. But I'm here to give you the final report on the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, which the town applied for exactly 2 weeks ago this week. It was February 16th of 2010. And a fledgling Energy Committee, in a bold move, made a very ambitious plan to take part in the U.S. Department of Energy's stimulus project on energy efficiency. And so we put forward 3 sub-grant applications. One was for renewable energy projects, which meant solar photovoltaic arrays. The second was for energy audits for municipal buildings in town. And the third was for a deep energy retrofit, which is a top-to-bottom retrofit of the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District Administrative Building. And we were very pleasantly surprised to find that all 3 of those projects were fully funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. And that was an amount just under $231,000. In the course of that project, we actually got an additional adder to that of just over $33,000 for those projects. We ended up expending just under $257,000 on these projects. And as you know, with these stimulus funds, everything has to be wrapped up, buttoned up, and paid off by the end of next month. That's when these efficiency projects are done. And so we're pleased to report that all of the projects that the town has undertaken have been successfully completed. And I'll just give you a brief overview of those. We installed photovoltaic arrays on the Plymouth Elementary School, on the Pease Public Library, and on the roof of the Village Water and Sewer District building. We found in the course of the grant project that the cost of solar panels had come down quite a bit from what our initial estimate was. So we ended up increasing the capacity for each of those projects. So for example, on the Pease Library, we had proposed a 2 kilowatt array. We ended up installing 3 kilowatts of power generation there. For the elementary school, we had proposed a 4 kilowatt array, and we ended up with 6.2 kilowatts. And for the water and sewer district building, we had proposed a 5 kilowatt array. And if you've driven by there, you can see that there are now 9.2 kilowatts of power being generated from that project. And so we're very pleased about that. For the deep energy retrofit project at the water and sewer district building, this was a very extensive project that ended up with over a dozen contractors individually working on different components of that project. I'm very pleased to report that the outcome of that, this was a project that was funded by the EECBG grant. There was also some additional funding provided for that project, and a $16,000 kick-in from the Water and Sewer District. The entire project went just over $200,000 for this, and that was the deep energy retrofit plus the solar power. And they have ended up with, at this point, a net carbon zero building. So right now they're at about 95 to 96%, and the last few percentage points are going to be achieved through the staff who work there, undertaking various measures. We've had a lot of great buy-in from the staff there, and we are really pleased to report that building is going to be net carbon zero going forward. We've actually seen just in the first month since the building has been, since the project has been completed, that they've cut their energy bill by 50%. And part of that month was when the building envelope was still opened up a little bit. So we expect to see some substantial savings from that, all of which, of course, go to the ratepayers of the Water and Sewer District in the form of lower rates. So we're very pleased about this project. And then finally we undertook these governmental building energy audits, which Craig Cadger is here to talk about as well. And what we found with that was we had 7 projects that we had on the grant list. 4 of the smaller buildings, namely Town Hall, the fire station, the police station, and the SAU 48 administrative building, which is on the school campus. We ended up paying for those audits through a separate program, which is the Energy Technical Assistance Project of the state of New Hampshire. The 3 larger projects, which are the high school, the elementary school, and Pease Library, were funded through the grant projects. And we were able to do full ASHRAE 2 level energy audits for those buildings, which Craig Cadger is going to report to you about in just a minute. But the point of that project was to get a benchmark for just how efficiently those buildings are being run right now. And the outcome of those audits, obviously, is a set of recommendations, which we don't have the funds right now to go forward with, but that's the challenge that you'll face. And what I'm here to tell you is that the Energy Commission stands ready, willing, and able to help you with whatever level of implementation you want to undertake for those recommendations. That includes, obviously, finding additional grant support and foundation support for whatever pieces of those projects you want to make. But we're very pleased about this grant. It's been a well-run grant. I want to give full credit to Sandra Jones from the Plymouth Area Renewable Energy Initiative, who has been our project manager and our grant administrator, and who has run every possible gauntlet through every piece of red tape that both the U.S. DOE and the New Hampshire Office of Energy and Planning could possibly think of to throw in her way. She has been really a yeoman with this. And I also want to give credit to Paul Freitas and his staff, who have put up with an equal amount of red tape with all of this. And we've learned a lot from these grant projects. Paul very ably and dutifully warned us what we were getting into when we started into this stuff, and he was right, plus about 50% on every single one of his cautions. This has been a tough project administratively with all the red tape, but I think that the results will speak for themselves going forward. And one of the things that I'm particularly pleased about, and Craig's going to talk about this as well, is that water and sewer district building right now is going to be a showcase. It's going to be a magnet for everyone in the state who wants to come and see how these projects are done the right way. And the elements of that project are going to be models for buildings of that kind. As you know, it's a modular construction building. When we envisioned this project, it was as a model for residential construction of similar type in town. We obviously went beyond what the typical resident might want to do. But we had the ratepayers of the district in mind as well for the savings. But I guess my message is that we're going to see people coming to town looking at this building, because this is going to be an exemplary building for the state going forward. And I'm very proud of the town for the support they've given us. I want to thank the selectmen for the support they've shown over the last 2 years. And as I say, we're ready to help with whatever additional pieces you want to undertake. So thank you. I'm going to ask Sandra Jones to give some brief remarks as well, and then I know Craig has an update for you on the audit piece.
I've handed out my spreadsheet, financial spreadsheet, and you'll see that the project totals equal more than the grant money that we got, because we had money given to us through the New Hampshire Electric Co-op rebate program, Public Utilities Commission, as well as the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer contributed some money to their project as well. So in the end, we were given $263,810 to fund the program, and we used $256,494. We asked for additional monies for the net zero project, because in order to make a building net zero, it was a huge task, and it's a big undertaking. So we needed to request a little more money from the block grant program, and the state was very eager to see us meet that goal, and that's why they gave us a little money to overrun the cost there. We got that approval before we expended any money. If you look under the payment request, the way this project has worked is we've had so many payment requests we were able to do per project. The community block grant was broken into 3, the audits, the retrofit, and then the solar PV projects. So we were able to do anywhere from 2 to 4 requests per project. So the town advanced money for us to get this work done, and then we submitted payment reimbursement requests to TRC Energy Solutions, and they submitted them to the state. So one of the problems with getting the money back was it took longer after we submitted our request before the town saw that money come back, and that was something that was unforeseeable. But between just how long it took to get from desk to desk to desk before it got signed off on. But we've received 4 of our payment requests back. We're waiting for 2 more have been submitted, and this last one for the energy audit project was will be submitted tomorrow. So the community block grant has to be completed by March 30th. The state has to expend all their money, so that means that the checks have to be in the mail to the town by March 30th. So I feel good that I can finally give a definite date. I have hopeful projections on here as to when those last 3 payment requests will be paid. In order to finish paying our bills for the grant, we do need to request another advance from the town so we can pay the contractors that have completed all the work. We're to the point where we have completed 100% of the block grant goals. And now we just need to pay a few more bills, and then we will get the money fully reimbursed by the state. So I have that advanced projection, an updated advanced projection, which was less than what we projected a few weeks ago, that I'd like to submit.
Does anyone have any questions? Or
Madam Chairman, I'm going to suggest that Craig's report
no, we're going to do it finished.
under unfinished business.
No,
Yep.
we will continue with committee reports now. We've got a little bit off the agenda. So, did you have anything to?
My committee report would be that I went to the last Plymouth Water and Sewer District meeting, at which the primary topic of discussion was the energy retrofit. So
Excellent.
you've just heard the whole thing, and I've got nothing to add.
Dick, did you have anything
No,
else?
nothing else.
Okay, and the only thing I had, I did attend a PSU Community Task Force meeting, and one thing that came out of that I think is really good news is that the university acted very quickly to adjust their academic calendar for next year and the following year, so that basically the time between move-in and the beginning of classes gets shortened up significantly, and the students won't have the free time that they have had in previous years. And I don't have that calendar with me, but I can say I think it's going to make a big difference in the kind of activity we see around town at the beginning of the semester. And next, under other business, Noreen McGrath. Is Noreen here? All right. In that case, we will move on under unfinished business to Craig from Paray to talk about the report on our municipal building audits.
Good evening. It's been a real pleasure to be able to work on these buildings on behalf of the town. I'm handing out two documents tonight. Both are basically one-page summaries of the energy audits that were done in town, as well as sort of a quick summary on the water and sewer building. Paul sort of went over the main details of the water and sewer building. We are looking for the building to be net zero at the end. I had modeled the building for energy conservation or energy efficiency, and with a PV to be about 94% savings. And as you probably have already heard at the commissioners meeting, the commission and the staff are already looking forward to reaching the ultimate goal of having a building that uses no more energy than it makes at its own site. So the details are in this list. I'd also like to extend an invitation to the select board, as well as anyone else in town, to have a tour of the building, to show some of the details or some of the items that were put into the building, so that everyone is knowledgeable and can speak intelligently about the project. The town, the energy audits, there were 6 buildings that were completed. I have them listed as the police station, fire station, SAU building, and the town hall. There were reports that were written up on all of these. I assume that everyone's received copies of them. The police station, some of this, the reports are telling you something that you probably already knew. The building is really not suited for the current use. It's a 24/7 operation that's in a warehouse. The biggest opportunity in this particular building is to do a more extensive air sealing and insulation. The work itself is pretty straightforward. The challenge for this building would be to do it while the building is in still operation. But if this building continued to go forward, there would be significant savings in spending some time doing some air sealing in that building. The fire station, the 3 main items that came up with that, there's still some lighting upgrades, fairly small dollar figures for those for pretty short-term paybacks. The boiler that's in there now is fairly old. Short of replacing it and getting something that's more energy efficient, there is some opportunities to increase the boiler controls. In the $400 to $600 range, could be an easily 10 to 15% savings with the boiler controls. Separating the hot water. Currently the water is generated through the boiler in this particular building. The recommendation is to put in a more dedicated hot water source so the boiler can be shut off in the summertime. Generally, we have found that the energy efficiency of boilers just producing hot water is not very good, and my general recommendation is to separate that whenever possible. The SAU building is in pretty good shape. The key note with this particular building is that it's a perfect site for future solar projects. It has a huge flat roof surface facing south. If there's any future opportunities for PV, I would suggest that building get looked at. The town hall, there's two primary areas in the town hall. Air sealing and insulation, the area above this building is in pretty poor shape. I think you would see some significant savings by someone spending a little bit more time air sealing and insulating that attic. And as Paul knows, as well as everyone else here, there could be some serious, some work that needs to get done on the heating and ventilation system, both in improving the duct and delivery system, properly balancing it. There's a lot of ductwork that's up in the cold attic that's dumping air up into the attic now that should really be addressed. Bringing some of that equipment into the conditioned space instead of having to compete with the extremes of both the summer and the winter time. This is a fairly pricey one. I'm suspecting it's in the $18,000 to $22,000 range, and I think I'm conservative in the estimates of 10 to 20%. This would also address, my hope is, the comfort issues in this building. I think the system is struggling to keep people comfortable in this building. And I think we can make some serious improvements by looking at the current system as well as looking at some options to augment it as well. The high school, I won't go too much detail with this. There are about 21 different recommendations. The nice thing I like to report is most of these are in the high school. The engineer who came out found very few things in the elementary school. So the direction, I would say, I know the elementary school just had some serious renovations. I think it's a testament to the fact that those energy efficiency things in the elementary school were attended to. And I mean, if you continue to make similar type of renovations to the high school, I think you're getting some good guidance both from John Francis and whoever your designers were for the elementary school. But there's about $290,000 worth of improvements over there with a potential savings of over $100,000. So the quick math on that is most of these projects would total up to rebates of, or return on investment of less than 3 years. Any questions?
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Right. The next item on our agenda is the vendor permit for Plymouth Ski and Sport. We had tabled this at a previous meeting, looking for information concerning the income that we would be earning on those spots if the meters were operating. And the dollar amount that the town administrator provided us on that, the potential annual parking meter revenue was $1,716 for those 2 spaces, but that is assuming that the meters are having quarters put in them for every single minute that is required during the day and during the week. And I think, Mike, you had suggested at one of our previous meetings that we establish some percentage of that total that would be a reasonable amount. Do you remember?
Paul, I was wondering, do we have any idea what percentage of the time the average meter is occupied, or what the average per meter revenue is? About 2/3. So that would be 1,100 or something like that. I'm just thinking 2/3 of 7 would be a little over 1,000, 1,100 or so.
And that was, actually, and Ray had watched our previous meetings and discussions about this on the television, and actually came in with a suggestion of an $1,100 annual fee. And as we had discussed in one of our previous meetings, he agreed that in our comment section that we identify that subletting of the parking spaces may only occur with the approval of the Board of Selectmen. I think we did have one suggestion from a citizen at a previous meeting that we put those parking spaces out for bid, but the reality is that we have not had any requests from anybody in the public to lease the parking spaces or to, for that type of a permit. other than Mr. Macera. So I don't know that putting them out for bid, if somebody else wants to have parking spaces, they can apply for a permit as well.
What are we getting now? Is it 500 a year?
500, and it's been 500 for the past 14 years.
I would, Madam Chairman, I would recommend that to bring this matter to a close in a manner that's equitable to the applicant and also to the citizens of the town, that we amend the document to raise the fee to the $1,100, recognizing that that's a sharing of the risk between an applicant and the town, and that we do put that note in the comments section that any subletting can only occur upon approval of the select board.
Would that be effective next year?
That would be effective now.
It's March, I think it's March 30, when his present lease runs out, or contract. The end of March?
To me, it would apply to the current application, so that the document would be
knows.
amended.
He's aware that we're still discussing this and that we're going to be getting back to him on it
So this would be effective April 1st for a year.
for the coming year, yes.
I mean, there was one or two comments at a previous meeting about the fact that we had, kind of accepted that application. We haven't necessarily acted on it, but we have accepted that application with the previous understanding of that $500 a year. So, and again, there wasn't a vote on it, whether it's accepted and finalized or just accepted, but just putting that on the table for discussion.
I'd like to suggest that we consider raising it by half of the difference for this year and the other half for next year, just in view of the fact that we're getting a little close. The guy probably has made some plans. He doesn't really have the time to investigate alternatives at this point. I think he depends on it. We haven't, probably should have been raising it along the way, but we didn't, and I think it's a little much to more than double it in 1 year. That would be my only thought. But otherwise, I think the idea of getting for the town what the meter would otherwise be getting is a reasonable thing to expect. We shouldn't be giving stuff away.
With that thought in mind, and also with the observation from Charles about the timing, I will amend my motion that the fee be increased to half of the differential between the previous $500 and the $1,100.
So that would
And it becomes effective with when the original application was intended for, which was the first of the year. So that takes us through the balance of this year for that fee.
I'm sorry, is the lease based on a calendar year?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I think it is.
So I would amend,
$800 for this calendar year, and then $1,100 for the next calendar year, should he apply for it.
I would second that.
All right, it's been moved by Ray, seconded by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is passed. And that concludes our business. Do we have any public comment? Yes.
Point of interest, since this deals with the parking meter and space, will half of the proceeds of that go into the parking meter fund system we have, or is 50% of our systems?
Yes, it will. Any other public comment? In that case, a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
What's that? Moved by Mike, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting